This video is going to be about some of the preliminary concepts in testing of intelligence and personality, which is a big piece of assessment and evaluation procedures that psychologists often use. Three concepts we'll talk about. The first is reliability. What is reliability? That's consistency. So if you take an intelligence test and it shows that you're above average, and 2 weeks later you took the same test and you're below average or average, how do you explain that? Well, that could be a problem with the test rather than your intelligence suddenly dipping or the start of dementia, let's say. So reliability is important. Not all tests have that. It's important to have good reliability for consistency over time or even within the test itself. There are different kinds of reliability, but for now, let's just worry about reliability means consistency. Second concept, validity. Validity. Is the test valid or not? Let's say you're taking a test of alcoholism, and it's trying to diagnose and say whether you have a significant alcohol problem or you're normal, let's say, and you don't have a significant drinking problem. And it's a paper and pencil written survey type test. Well, we want that score to be accurate. And that's a great example of some testing where it is a problem because it's hard for people to admit to substance use problems often. So they are often doing what we call faking good. They're making themselves look good, giving a good impression. And sometimes you can tell from the questions on a test, such as if it asks if you've had a lot of blackouts or if people complain about your drinking, how many drinks you have on a typical occasion, how often you drink alcohol or other substances. So if people are not going to be honest, then it's not a very valid test. It tests whether they're going to giving a good impression or not alcoholism per se. So validity is important. What is the third concept? That we call norms. Norms is almost like that word normal. So normal, what is a typical, standard, average kind of score on that particular test that you're giving. So that's important because we don't have anything to compare it to. We don't know how to interpret and make any sense out of source. So for example, let's say I told you you had a score of 125 on some sort of test. Well, what does that mean? It really depends. If it was a short quiz in our class where the maximum possible is 12, unless you do extra credit, that would be an incredible score. I would probably say something's wrong with me in scoring because it's not possible to get that high. If you were taking a typical intelligence test, as we'll get to a little bit later, the average is typically around 100 or between 90 and 110. So 125 would be good, would be above average. What if you were taking the SAT? You probably already know by now that I think 800 is a perfect score on each section of the SAT. So a single score on let's say the math portion of 125 would be very low, would not get you into a major university or even a minor university, let's say. So norms means we've given the test to many people that we want to use as a comparison group. Hopefully people that have something in common with the person who's taking the test. Age, gender, area of the country, a variety of factors, culture, and we can compare them to the typical person taking that. So if the average person taking the average high school senior taking the SAT gets a 450 out of 800 on the verbal portion or the math portion, let's say, now we know what to make out of your score. Otherwise, it's not very meaningful. So those are the three topics. Important concepts with any test. Good tests have all those three. Norms, which is sometimes called standardization, which means standardizing the test on a particular group or groups of people. Validity, which means accuracy. And reliability, which means consistency, usually over time. That's it. We'll cover more on testing on other videos. Take care.